So Aminah, it's with
Okay,
you.
thank you. Sorry, now that I
It's
have the
okay.
full presenter screen, I can't really engage with the Zoom as much. So excuse me if I do anything weird with my face because I can't see it and monitor it. But hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. Again, I'm Aminah Luqman. I'm the program manager at United Way Bay Area. And I just want to provide you all, kind of like Erica talked about, with a little bit of a census outreach update, going over some of the census basics that I'm sure you all know, but we could all use kind of a refresher, and then kind of going into some of the things that we've had to pivot and change given the current situation with COVID-19, and some of the outreach strategies that we're encouraging our partners to also engage in. So like I said, we'll start with the introductions. It's really nice to hear from all of you and all the important work that you all are doing in the community, and so appreciative to have you all as census partners that are also engaged in making sure that the Bay Area counts in the 2020 census. Like I said, we'll do the census overview, updates, and then have time for Q&A at the end. Also feel free, if something comes up and you don't want to forget it, to put it in the chat box. I can't monitor it right now because I can't really see Zoom, but we'll be sure to answer your questions at the end. Okay, so just starting, this is an example of some of our collateral, which is all in our resource folder, which I'll show you at the end. Our key messaging is be counted in the 2020 census, because when you respond, everyone benefits. This is also an example of our texting campaign, which some of you may have heard about. So folks can text count to a county specific number. So this is the number for Solano County, 707-512-9592. I encourage you, if you have your phones right now, to text count to that number. And it asks you if you would like to participate in the Text Bay Area Counts 2020 texting campaign and receive reminders about the census and information about the census. So just a quick overview that all of the data is secured and protected, and it will only be used for this census outreach. And then once the census is over, the database will be wiped clean. So this is only for census messaging. And I've gotten really great messages like, hey, you should look out for the mailed invitation for the census. Have you responded yet? And giving them the resources that they need to respond. So this is one of the many strategies that we have now that we're in shelter in place, but that we had implemented before everything happened with COVID-19 to make sure people in our community are engaged in the census. Okay, so kind of to go to 5 things to share about the census, just distilling it down to these 5 points. So the first one is to remind folks that they can answer by phone, or that they should answer by phone or online by April 30th. So we kind of have that as a cutoff date just to make it urgent. We want folks to respond as soon as they can. Addresses should have already gotten at least 2 mailed invitations from the Census Bureau inviting them to respond. So we want to tell people, respond today, respond by April 30th. But we also want you all to know that people can respond online or over the phone up until April 14th. And I bolded this, and we'll talk about it later, but this is an example of something that's been adjusted because of COVID-19. So before it was, you could respond up until July 31st, and now people can respond up until August 14th. So the second thing we want to share is that the census is safe, and that individual census responses are confidential and protected by extremely strong laws. Thirdly, we want folks to know that the census is important, and really to make it personal. So if you're talking to families, it's important for schools, it's important for healthcare, WIC, social services, all these things in our community. It's used to inform budget and policy decisions in our community, and it has an impact for the next 10 years. The fourth thing that we want to share is that the census does not ask about your citizenship or immigration status. And then lastly, encouraging folks to remember that everyone counts. You want to count everyone at your address, even if you're not related, even if it's a roommate you don't like, and especially if you have young children. As you all know, in past censuses, in the 2010 census, children were the most undercount group because, you know, based on different family situations, or just forgetting that a young person or baby should be counted on the census. So it's really important, the work that you all are doing, to make sure that we should count all children, count all kids, and that everyone counts in the census. Okay, so moving on, like I said, the census form is live. And that's why we're encouraging folks to respond now. So right now, people have the option, most people have the option to respond online or over the phone. And this is the census response site. So remember it, I have it in my mind, my2020census.gov. I've been linking this on social media and just everything that we put out. We want to make sure people know about this census response site. There are also, these are resources that you all can use. For example, the Census Bureau has put out online video guides that walk people through the online questionnaire step by step in 59 different languages. So we've linked the English video here, but if you go to that video or the US Census Bureau site, you can see the video guides in 59 languages with step-by-step instructions on filling out the online questionnaire. There's also a resource of the language guides, which does the same thing of walking people through answering the paper questionnaire. So step-by-step instructions on answering the paper questionnaire, which people will get in mid-April if they still haven't responded. And that is also a resource that's available in 59 languages. And just a reminder that the online questionnaire and the phone response is available in 12 languages. So these resources that I'm telling you about are great for folks that may not speak the 12 languages or be comfortable speaking the 12 languages that you can respond with. It's another resource to help them respond to the census. And just a last note that when you fill out the online questionnaire, you get a confirmation code. And then if you fill it out, or if you respond to the census over the phone, you can get a 9-digit confirmation code upon request. Some folks are using this. I've talked to some community partners that have made it an incentive to get counted by offering, either a gift card or some type of, some type of incentive item if they bring in their confirmation card and show that code and show that they were counted. So that's just an idea that's been out in the community. These are the phone numbers that I was telling you about. So if someone wants to respond over the phone, these are the different response lines in the 12 different languages. Note that it all starts with an 844 and ends in 2020, but depending on the language, the 3 digits in the middle change. And then these are some example of some non-Census Bureau hotlines that people can call to, get some questions answered about the census in their language. As I was telling you all about the Census Bureau has been mailing invitations. I don't know if I can't see on Zoom for people to raise their hands, but hopefully you've received at least 1 or 2 of these mailed invitations at your address. And this is from the Census Bureau, kind of telling you about the census, why it's important, and inviting you to respond with your census ID number, which is specific to your address. So we just want to make sure all envelope aware, and when you're talking to people in the community, letting them know that they can look out for a mailed invitation to their address. But if not, they can just respond online or over the phone without this invitation. And by that, I mean without the census ID number. So these are the postcards that will be delivered to addresses in the next week if they haven't responded to the census already. And then if an address still has not responded to the census by mid-April, they will receive another mailed invitation with the actual paper questionnaire. And then the final reminder postcard will be going out at the end of April. So these are just to know that the Census Bureau will only contact you to invite you to respond to the census by mail. And you do not need, while it's helpful, you do not need the census ID number in the mailed invitation to respond. And then just a little update about live response rates. So the Census Bureau is providing live response rates by in the nation, by state, by county, about who's responded to the census. And so this is the most recent data that we have for Solano. I'm just including the census tracts that either had a hard to count score that was greater than 57 or a lower self-response score than 14%. And so when we ran that for Solano, we found it to be in the Fairfield unincorporated Susan city area. So this is something that we've been checking, and we're encouraging our census partners to check as we pivot our outreach strategies and maybe send postcards about the census, that we're, targeting postcards or phone bankings to these areas that maybe have low response rates to the census. And so now more about kind of an update as it relates to COVID-19 and the census. Really, the main changes are that some dates about census operations have been extended or delayed. But really, all of our messaging about responding to the census online or by phone before April 30th or right now is the same. We're not changing anything in our messaging. Everything is the same. It's just kind of what's happening with the Census Bureau, and some of our outreach strategies are the things that are changing. So like I said before, the self-response period, or the time that we can respond to the census on our own, online, over the phone, or by mail, has been extended by 2 weeks. So now, as I said before, people can respond until April 14th. And then the non-response follow-up period, which is basically the time when census takers will go out in the community and knock on the doors of addresses that have not responded to the census yet, has also been extended by 2 weeks. There's also, as you may know, the Census Bureau had an operation to count people that were experiencing homelessness. So they would count them at service locations such as food kitchens and shelters, as well as outdoor locations. And that has been delayed by a month, which is good. It shows that the Census Bureau is pivoting to make sure that everyone in our community is counted. This kind of goes with what I was talking about before, but all in-field operations. So that includes the count to count people that are experiencing homelessness. That includes census takers, and anything that was happening with the Census Bureau in the field has been delayed nationwide until at least April 1st, and may experience more delays. Group quarters enumeration. So these are nursing homes, these are correctional facilities, these are college and university campuses. That has also been delayed by 2 weeks. So that operation will now take place between April 16th and June 19th. And then the enumeration of transitory locations, which are places like RV parks or motels, different locations where people may be moving in and out of, has also been delayed by 2 weeks. So it's now happening between April 23rd and May 18th. It's not necessary to remember all the specific dates. Just know that the Census Bureau is adjusting so that we can make sure we count everyone in our community, and that when it comes to us as outreach partners, and community outreach workers and organizations, the messaging remains the same about making sure our communities are counted today, giving them the resources they need to get counted, and then just knowing that they can respond up to August 14th. So that's been extended a little bit. Okay, so now moving towards how, I know for a lot of us, it's kind of felt like the rug has been pulled out from under us in so many ways, not just with census outreach, and we're all kind of working to adjust. And so something that we've kind of been thinking about and talking about with other census partners and putting out as a way to pivot our census outreach during shelter in place is, we kind of distilled into 4 different things. The first is boosting our social media outreach. So a lot of us were already on social media, but we think now that most people are in their homes. I know when I'm not working, kind of on social media an unhealthy amount, trying to read more, move away from that. But we need to take advantage of it and really make sure messaging about the census and its importance and getting counted today is just kind of flooding people's feeds. So something that we've been doing that we invite you all to join into is the We Hell Account video campaign. I'm wearing my We Hell Account shirt right now. I'm not really sure if you can see it because I can't see myself on Zoom. But it's really just a campaign. We invite you to record a video of yourself that's around 10 to 20 seconds talking about why the census is important to you. We have 2 example videos here. We'll send you the presentation after. You can also go on Twitter and go to our account at UW Bay Area, or just search the hashtag WeHellAccount and the videos will show up. So we invite you to record a video. If you have some kiddos that are around, have them talk about the census too, or be in the video, and just talking about why the census is important. And we hope to, in our region and even in a wider scope, have this campaign be something that's on people's feeds so that they know the importance of the census and get counted. Also important to use social media to address frequently asked questions about the census, to, you know, maybe even host kind of like a live Instagram live or Facebook live where people can ask you questions about the census and you can answer it on the spot. Making sure we're continuing to link community members to the response sites, whether that's the online response site at my2020census.gov or the Census Bureau phone numbers. And then also letting you know about more resources. We at United Way have a regional social media toolkit and graphics in 12 languages. But we also know that our community partners, Children's Network, First Five, so many other organizations have really great social media toolkits. And they're for everyone to use. So just want to put that out there as a resource. Another idea is sending mailers with information about the census. So, you know, you might have families on your contact list that you're checking in with already, given the times. Like you could include either one of our postcards or flyers or print collateral that we have in 18 languages, and that's on the resource folder and linked here, or other census materials you have, just to make sure that the census is also on people's minds. Feel free to write a personalized message. I think we're all really, you know, craving community right now and appreciate being reached out to and talking to folks and having folks check in on us. So I think this is another way that we're pivoting our outreach, given the shelter-in-place mandate. The third option is to send texts about the census to your network. So earlier I was talking about the Bay Area Counts, oh, did my video do something? The Bay Area Counts texting campaign. So you can enroll your clients, your families in our outbound messaging program by sharing your contact list. So I would link the texting outreach guide here. And this is basically the texting campaign that sends reminders and motivational messaging about the census. So you can just send us your client list without the names. You would just include the county and the language that they would like to receive messaging in and the number, and we will invite them to join our texting campaign. They can always say no, and if they say yes, they will receive those reminders that will hopefully get them counted in the 2020 census. We also have a Google form that you can link to your website or email signatures that encourage people to sign up on their own to our texting campaign. Another option is phone banking. So again, you can call your network and encourage them to take the census. Many of you have, you know, client lists, families that you serve already, and you can call them and might already be calling them to check in about different things and use our script and phone banker guide to include messaging about the census. It includes kind of the main talking points, answers to frequently asked questions, and a script that you can use when you're calling families and calling people in the community. We also have a phone banker training that is in the resource folder and also linked here that can also serve as a training for people that are calling at your organization. Just to really quickly go over phone banking best practices, you want to make sure that your organization and the issues are being represented well and correctly. Connect with the caller. Like we said before, this is a very difficult time, and you know, no one wants to just answer a phone and receive a message like, hey, I'm just calling to make sure you got counted on the 2020 census. Like, empathize with people, ask them how they're doing. I was recently on a call earlier where someone that's been phone banking was saying that this person was so just happy to be talking to them and appreciative of them reaching out. And asking how they were doing, and just saying, just in the midst of everything, I forgot about the census and wanted to get counted, so thank you for calling. And then they went back and talked to the phone banker, asking them how they were doing. So this is actually a really great time for us to connect as a community and just incorporate census messaging in our outreach and in calls that we may already be doing with families and community members. Again, to remember that they cannot see you, so use your voice to convey passion and excitement about the census. And like we said, body language usually comes across in your tone even though they can't see you, so you know, feel free to be animated while you're on the phone. know your audience and focus on the facts or the messaging that would be appropriate to them and might resonate with them, and also make sure to stick with census messaging. So don't accidentally engage in grassroots lobbying or partisan races, or, you know, kind of veer off to anything that might be political, and just stick to the census message. This is all in the guides that I was telling you about. For the sake of time, I won't go into every single point, but the key talking points are to remind folks that the census is safe, secure, and confidential, and that people's census responses are protected by extremely strong laws, and cannot be shared with your landlord, cannot be shared with any other government agency, cannot be shared with the police. It's protected by extremely strong laws and just stays within the Census Bureau. And even with that, it's only used to create aggregate statistics and private aggregate statistics about the population. About the 2020 census, it will ask 9 basic questions about each person in your household, and we'll just focus on 3 basic information areas, such as the number of people at your address, the type of housing you're living in, and the basic demographic information such as sex, age, and race of each person living at your address. So something we tend to say is that the census is 9 questions, it takes no longer than 10 minutes, and it has an impact of 10 years. Then reminding folks, like we talked about at the beginning, that you should count everyone living at your address, regardless of if they're related to you or not, and especially remember to count young children. Like I was talking about before, the census ID that you receive in the census mailer is not required to take the census. So if you go online, it will ask you for your census ID, and you can click that. There's a little link that says, if you do not have a census ID, click here. You click that and you can continue filling out the census questionnaire. We also want to tell folks that if you're unsure if you were already counted, you can just count. Let's say I'm living somewhere and I don't know if my roommate filled out the census already and I didn't have a way of getting in contact with them. I can fill it out again, and that's okay, because the Census Bureau has a way to deduplicate the response. And this also applies that if you make a mistake. So let's say my roommate fills out my information but doesn't fill out my age correctly or doesn't fill out my race correctly, then I can submit the census form again with the correct response, and the Census Bureau will have a way of figuring that out on the back end. Kind of like I was talking about before, the Census Bureau is offered in, the census is offered in 12 languages. And there are also many resources such as the video guide that I showed you and the language guides in 59 languages that show people how to take the census online or by the paper form. In avoiding potential scams, knowing that the Census Bureau will never ask you for your social security number, your bank account or credit card number, or money or donations. And then when it comes around that Census Bureau are coming and knocking on people's doors that haven't responded to the census yet, that census enumerators will have, or census takers will have, a Census Bureau ID badge, and that you can also confirm if they work for the census by contacting this number. Okay, so that's kind of a lot of the key talking points, but the main ones that I want to go back to are the 5 things at the beginning. I'll show it really quickly again. These are the main things when we're talking to community members that we want to emphasize. So we want people to answer online or by phone today, but by April 30th, but knowing that, letting people know that they can answer online, by phone, or by mail up until August 14th, that the census is safe and confidential and protected by law. Your responses are protected by law, letting them know that the census is important, and really finding, the census connects to so many different parts of our lives and impacts so many different parts of our lives, and figuring out what resonates with the person you're talking to. The census does not ask about your citizenship or immigration status, and that everyone counts. So those are the 5 things that we really want to share. Kind of flip through to the end, just in case anyone has any questions. feel free to unmute yourself. I can't really see the Zoom right now, but also this is our email address, census2020@uwba.org. You can always feel free to contact us there. Our social media handle and the hashtags we use. We really hope that we see some We Held Account videos from you all. And then this is the link for the shared resource folder that I kept referring to, that has the different trainings, the different guides and toolkits. Everything that you kind of saw in this presentation can be found there.